Guys, this is Katie Carson with the Hooded Heroes Foundation, and I have Joey Caruso and Ian Freeman with me tonight. We're going to be talking with Ian on this episode, and we kind of want to, he's one of our board members, and we want to learn more about what drew you in as becoming one of our board members.
Well, I have been in weld education since 2015, and I've seen people have to struggle to get what they need to come through classes. So I started off in doing adult evening courses, like short-term courses. So I didn't really I didn't work with people who had parents to help them out and that kind of deal. So I saw a bunch of folks that were wanting to better themselves, and they weren't always able to do it like they wanted to. And thankfully, the school I work at, we had extra hoods and gloves and things like that. So during class time, we had them taken care of, but it wasn't their stuff to keep. So seeing this, it was just, right up my alley, knowing that I was going to be able to hopefully try to help out people that are wanting to get in the industry that I love so much, and get them the PPE that they need to really not just start their weld education, but if they're good to it, take it with them into the industry. So, yeah, it's an awesome mission.
Perfect. And then, who's one of the people in your life that was like an inspiration to you to get into this trade?
Okay, well, the town that I live in is actually where Conoco, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Conoco, I'm sure most people have, or Phillips 66. The town I live in is where Conoco got its start. So we've got a big refinery here. And my grandfather was a plumber's pipe fitters. Well, he's a pipe fitter, but he was in the union. So he got me started in this whenever I was 13. So people, they think I'm not very old, which is true, I suppose, but they don't see the years that came before I was actually on the job, because I built fence and I built trailers and all sorts of stuff with my grandpa. Once he retired, he started doing stuff like that on the side, and that's where I really learned, take the time to do things right. It's a lot easier to do it right the first time instead of having to go around and mess around with things 3, 4, 5 times. And once he kind of got me into that, I went to college, but I welded through school, and then I've never once used my degree. I just I went straight back into welding, and I've just been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. So you kind of live by that philosophy: measure 3 times, cut 4 times, or measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Oh, that's awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about the most fun job you've ever been on?
I've had a lot of really fun jobs, honestly, but I am, as much as I just love straight welding, it's fun to be under the hood all day, but I love building stuff. So I worked at a fab shop for several years, and I got to build a lot of piping spools and things like that. But there was one job in particular that I was the only person that welded on it. I can't tell you why. I don't know. I mean, I honestly have no idea why they put me on it. It was fun, but the reason why it was so fun is I was a stick and flux core and TIG guy. I hadn't done a whole lot of just hardwire welding. So this was all 3 and 4 inch extra heavy pipe. So, I mean, it was a ton of welding, and I got to use RMD and pulse, which to me was like, that's like space welding. So
Yeah.
that was really cool to get to, I weld for several weeks with that only. It was fun. And so now at the school where I teach, we got a couple of machines that do RMD and pulse. So anytime the students are like, well, what can I do that's a little different? I'm like, I've got just the thing.
Yep. For sure.
You've done that
Yeah.
on the machine for me a couple times, haven't you?
We've done a little bit of pulse, but for those of you that are out there and not familiar with RMD, and Lincoln's version is called STT, Synergic Transfer, Tension Transfer, I think is what it stands for.
Mhm.
But they use a lot of in fabrication of pipe. Basically, I don't know if you did it, where you sat on a rollout and it basically just kind of put your gun in there, and it runs similar, very similar to pulse, but there's a little alligator that clip that goes on, at least through STT
Yeah.
with Lincoln, and the machine will actually start adjusting itself as you're welding. So I mean, it lays just beautiful beads. I mean, you can root in one shot, and then basically, well, I don't know about on that extra heavy wall, but like a Schedule
Yeah.
40, you put a single root and then you're filling and capping one shot. It's crazy what that stuff
Oh, yeah.
can do.
Okay.
Yeah, the that alligator clip's the voltage sensing wire,
Yep.
and I've shown the students, if you start with your gun right next to your material and just slowly pull it back, the voltage won't change, but maybe 1 volt overall. Even when you're like, you got no voltage anymore, but it's still trying to hold that arc. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's neat. So
You'll have to show me more. So what is either the worst job or the scariest job that you've ever been on?
I've got one for each, I suppose. Worst job was welding floating tank or floating roof tank pontoons in the middle of summer, like laying inside of them.
Yeah.
So it gets up to like 115 degrees down here, and inside of something that's just about 6-8 inches taller than you, and running a bunch of flux core. That's pretty crappy. It gets real hot real fast.
Oh, yeah.
But scariest is just because I'm kind of a wiener and I'm scared of heights. But having to weld on towers, so I'm in a man lift 80, 100, 120 feet up. I'm not too keen on that.
I don't blame you. I
Most
wouldn't
people it
either.
doesn't bother, I don't think, but I hated it.
Yep. It's different when you're welding in, those like those lifts, those big boom lifts like that, those articulating lifts, and you get, 80, 100 foot in the air, and that thing, if even the smallest, like 5 miles per hour wind,
Oh yeah,
that basket is moving 2 or
yeah.
3
You're
feet.
just
It's a different type of atmosphere up there for sure.
yeah. It's way better to be on scaffolding, in my opinion.
Amen to that, buddy. Amen to that.
Definitely. And then, you are an instructor also. So what is one piece of advice that you give to your students when they're going through school and stuff like that about the industry?
One of the first things, so like within the first week of class, I always say, you're not going to waste my time as the instructor. They pay me to be here either way. So don't waste your own time, because you can only get out of it what you put into it. So, there's only so many hours in a day and far fewer in each class. So when you show up to work, it's treat it like a job kind of thing. You show up to work, you're expected to start work. If your shift is 6 to 3 or whatever, you're not expected to clock in at 6. You're expected to start working at 6. So that's kind of my main thing, is not wasting time. I actually am kind of the pilot program at the school for, I make them clock in. So it's an actual time card, old school time card where they got to punch in every day. So it's, there's some guys that they like to cruise in right at 8 o'clock. Okay, well, if that were a job, you might get your pay docked a little bit. So that's kind of was, I try to instill that work ethic, which is not easy to do sometimes. But, it's one of those. It takes no skill to show up on time.
Yeah.
So show up on time and actually, put in the work. It's super easy to do well in my program, because I expect you to show up and try. And it is what it is with employers these days. That's really all I hear is We just need them to show up. We need them to
For
show up
sure.
and just put in a little bit of effort.
Mhm.
So
Yep. I always
sad as that may sound.
I
But it's
always
true.
resort back to the story, when I get some of them that kind of roll in a little bit late, or a couple minutes late, and you ask, well, what happened? I just couldn't get out of bed, this morning. Couldn't sleep well. And I'm like, back in my day when I was in the industry, and this was a few years ago, when we were running trucks and we had an hour drive to location. We started at 6 o'clock in the truck, and we had to be on location by 7, working at 7. My truck left at 6. If you were not sitting in that truck at 6 o'clock, you rolled in at 6:05. You're going home for the day,
Mhm.
and you just lost
Yeah.
10 hours of pay. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess some of them, like you said, it'll click, and they figure it out real quick, and they're like, hey, our instructor's not just BSing with a bunch of crap, because we as instructors we try to build that real life, real world actions in our students, because we know what it's out there, and yeah, we don't BS around, we don't tell
Right.
stories to shoot the crap. We tell real life situations, and that's what separates instructors or trades instructors, period, from math teachers, or
Mm-hmm.
like if you go to, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, where we have real life situations that we've been through. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the position we're in.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And I know you only asked for one thing, so I apologize for that. But the other thing that I'd like to tell anybody that's starting out in the industry is ask questions. You've
Yes.
got to ask questions. If you've never done it before, you can only get so much from YouTube, because YouTube's a great thing to help people get started. But if you can't actually see it for yourself there in person, you're not going to get everything you need. So if you don't ask questions, I don't, we don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
Um, I have that so often. I feel like I'm begging sometimes. Like, if you're having a hard time, I would love to help you. I mean, that's literally the only reason I'm here. So, ask the questions as much. I mean, even if you feel like you're bothering the instructor, that's okay. They'll get over it.
Yep. Like you said, they're paid to be there. So whether they're there
Yeah.
and they're with another student, we'll get to you the next student. I guarantee it. That's a big thing for me,
Hmm.
is I like to be in those booths with those guys. And if I am busy, it means, I've put a mental list in my head. I've got to hit this person, and this person, because the more you come find me, the better off you're going to be, for those
Oh yeah.
students. And I'm sure you see it. They get in the booth and they weld for 8 hours and they never ask a single question, and they want to give up on welding.
Mm.
It's like, I was literally 5 feet from you. Do his ass.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, but I really like that. That's it's nice hearing it coming from another instructor. Let know that all of us. It doesn't matter where we're at in the United States. What in the welding program, it's we live by the same rules.
Yeah.
And it's nice coming from another instructor for these guys to hear. Because I can only tell them till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
Big, but
Oh yeah.
it's like a code for us or something.
Yeah, and it's the same for all the trades apparently too, because I have these exact conversations with like the automotive instructor and the machine tool instructor and stuff. It's just, and I get it. It can be intimidating. Welding is a intimidating job. It's not for the faint of heart, I guess. You don't really go in every day, and you can think you know what's going to happen every day, but something different probably is going to happen every day. So it's it's definitely different, and I can see why it could be overwhelming or a little nerve wracking for some people. And that's again, that's why you screw up in school.
Yep.
Don't wait until you're on the job to mess up. Mess up now and ask questions.
Right. That's awesome.
Well, it's just like last weekend, Joey let me weld a chair for the first time, and I was putting it together, and I blew a huge hole. And then, like, oh, I'm just, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna fix it really quick here, and he won't even know. no, I blew a bigger hole. And I'm like, oh shoot, now what do I do? And I had this holy, like, oh shit look on my face, and he looks over at me. I'm like, I can't fix it. I'm like, I'm so glad I have a Joey here to fix this right now. So, but I kept my hood down, and I'm like, I want to watch what you're doing because I need to learn this. So it was good that I got to learn it, but I had to ask those questions. What did I do? Like, why did this happen? So,
Right.
For sure.
Yep. It's just as important to know what not to do as it is to know what to do.
Yep.
mhm.
And
I mean, it really is.
And welders, even instructors, I tell my students when I make a mistake, learn from my mistake. I said, I tell them all the time, I am not perfect.
Mhm.
I screw up
All right.
almost on a daily basis. Sometimes I have bad days. I have bad welds. It happens, but what's nice is I own up to it right away. Hey, I literally, I had the wrong stick out if I'm gas metal arc welding. I moved just right. And in spray transfer, I got a 1/4 inch difference in my stick out, ruined the weld. I mean, literally a 1/4 of an inch
Right.
in gas metal arc welding, like spray transfer, will destroy that weld. Flux core, you'll get wormholing bad. Too much stick out. So it's definitely a cool trade to be in for sure. So
Yeah. Well, then you can't forget stick, where you can have everything set the exact same and still not get the same results, and you're just like, I don't know. It's just a different day, I guess.
yep, different box of rod.
Yeah, different box of rods. Something's going on at the power plant, so the incoming voltage is different somehow. I don't know. I never know.
They were running it at like 400 instead of 480.
Yeah, yeah. It's not my fault.
It's always the machine's fault, not the welder.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Ian, we thank you so much for your time tonight, man. It's always a pleasure talking with you on the phone. Fellow welder to welder and upcoming welder. I've gotten to really know you over the last couple of years, and it's been a pleasure having you as a friend and a board member, and just a great guy to talk to. So we appreciate
I
your
really
time
appreciate
tonight,
the
man.
opportunity.
So
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. It's definitely something that's near and dear to my heart to be able to try to help out people, and if these goofy words help somebody somewhere, then I'm doing all right.
amen to that, brother. Well, you have a good, wonderful rest of your beautiful evening in Oklahoma, because I know you said it's about 75 degrees down there. So, yeah. Oh, look at that.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, man. We would show ours outside, but we still got that white stuff on the ground, and it's, mid-April. So, we're in our
Yeah,
nice,
that's
warm, cozy
no
house
fun.
tonight. But, well,
I
thanks
don't know how
again,
you do
Ian,
it.
so much, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of Under the Hood with the Hooded Heroes Foundation. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, Instagram. Give my man Ian Freeman a follow on his Instagram page, IF Welding. Right
Yep.
there it
That's
is.
me.
I always forget. Sometimes I'm old, so I forget things sometimes. But make sure you give him a follow, send him some love, and if you guys ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to a guy like this. He has always been willing to give a helping hand, answer a message or two. So. We will see you guys later tonight. Again, thanks so much, Ian. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, my friend.
All right. Thanks.